I used to sleep like a corpse. The kind of sleep where the world disappears. No dreams, no tossing, no memory of shifting positions. I'd close my eyes and wake up in the same position 8 hours later. I prided myself on that. A clear mind, a quiet house, a peaceful bed. But that was before I started waking up at 2:43. The first night, I didn't think anything of it. My eyes just opened, and for a moment, I lay there blinking into the dark. The room was silent, still. Even the ceiling fan had stopped turning. That should have struck me as odd, but I just assumed the power had gone out. I checked my phone. 2:43. No notifications. No missed calls. But the room felt wrong. Cold, but not temperature cold. Cold in the way an empty street feels cold when you think someone is following you. I didn't move. I wasn't scared. Just aware, uncomfortably aware, of the fact that I wasn't alone. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything. But I felt watched. It wasn't like a presence in the corner. It was direct. Focused, like two invisible eyes boring into my forehead. I remember swallowing slowly, afraid the sound would break the silence. Eventually, I turned my head slightly. There was nothing there. Just the end of the bed, the dresser, the barely lit curtain swaying from a cracked window. I told myself it was just a fluke. Waking up in the middle of the night, paranoia, a trick of the shadows. I even joked about it in my head. Maybe I've been watching too many horror shorts on YouTube. I tried to laugh, but my body wouldn't move. It wasn't sleep paralysis. I can move. But I didn't want to, because if I did, I had a feeling something would move back. I didn't say it out loud, of course. I'm not the kind of person who scares easy. But when bedtime came, I kept finding reasons to stay up. My apartment had never been so clean. I did laundry I didn't need to. Scrolled through apps I didn't even like. Watched videos I'd already seen. I didn't want to admit it, but I was waiting, dreading. And sure enough, when I finally gave in to sleep, it happened again. 2:43, eyes open, same position, same stillness, same humming dread sitting on my chest like an invisible weight. My room felt dead. That was the only word for it, dead. But unlike the first night, I didn't feel watched from a distance. I felt watched from above. It made no sense. I live in a one-story apartment. No upstairs neighbors, no vents on the ceiling, no shelves or bunk beds or attic crawl spaces. And yet I felt the presence this time not at the foot of the bed, but directly above me. As if someone was hovering just a few inches from my face. Not breathing, not moving, just watching. I held my breath. Not out of fear, but out of instinct. Like prey under a predator's paw. I could hear the silence pressing in on my eardrums, the pounding of my heart against my ribs. I thought if I stayed perfectly still, the feeling would go away, but the weight didn't lift. The room didn't warm, and I swear, I felt a shift in the air. A subtle movement, like something pulling back. That's when I turned on the lamp beside my bed. I didn't even mean to. My hand just moved. Click, light flooded the room. Empty. Just my books, a glass of water, and the hum of electricity returning to the air. And yet, the blanket on my chest, folded halfway down, like something had been sitting there. I didn't touch it the rest of the night. The third night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat up in bed, propped against my pillows, a mug of coffee in my hands like a talisman. I wasn't going to be caught off guard again. If 2:43 was going to come, I'd meet it head on. Awake, alert, armed with logic and light, I kept my bedside lamp on. The soft yellow glow was a poor comfort, but better than the darkness. Hours passed. I read a book, scrolled, listened to lo-fi beats until the music felt eerie. The whole apartment was too quiet. Even the fridge wasn't humming. And when the clock ticked over to 2:42, I set the book aside. I watched the room, every corner, every shadow. I wanted to see something, but not really. The truth is, a part of me hoped it was all in my head. Sleep stress, maybe. An overactive imagination. But at 2:43, exactly 2:43, the lamp flickered. Not a power surge, not a dimming. A single deliberate flicker, like someone tapping the bulb. Just enough to make the shadows shift on the wall behind the dresser. That's when I saw him, not clearly. Not directly, just a shape. He stood in the reflection of the mirror, not in the room, not in the light. Just in the mirror. A tall, motionless figure, hands by his sides, bare feet. Head tilted slightly like he was trying to see me better. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to stay still, to not break the illusion, to let him exist only in that thin silver glass. I watched as his head tilted further, slowly, too slowly. The mirror fogged slightly, but not from my breath. I wasn't breathing. I stared at the mirror until my eyes burned. The figure didn't move, didn't blink, didn't sway with the drafts. He just stood there, perfectly still, watching, not through the mirror, but from it, like the glass was a window and I was on the wrong side. When 2:44 a.m. arrived, the lamp flickered again and the figure was gone. No fade, no blur. One moment there, the next moment. Emptiness. I turned around then, fast, my heart in my throat. The room was still empty, but the air had changed, heavier, warmer somehow, like someone had just left. Like the room was holding its breath. I didn't sleep after that. At dawn, I got up and walked to the mirror, ran my fingers along the edges, checked for smudges. Hidden projectors, cracks, nothing. It was just glass. But I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I tested it. That night, I placed a small sticker in the corner of the mirror. Something simple, a yellow dot. If the mirror somehow changed, if what I saw wasn't real, the sticker might be gone, right? When I woke up the next morning, the sticker was gone, not peeled off. Not fallen, just missing. I searched everywhere. Under the dresser, behind the mirror, even checked my hair and clothes in case it had stuck to me. Nothing. I didn't put another sticker up. What was the point? He was watching, and now I was sure he knew I knew. By the 5th night, I had stopped pretending it wasn't real. I started locking my bedroom door. Not that it would help, but it made me feel like I had a boundary, something to hold the thing at bay. I placed a chair against the handle too. Just like in the movies, it made no difference. I woke up at 2:43 like clockwork. The chair hadn't moved, the lock was still turned, and yet I could feel him, closer. He wasn't in the mirror this time. He wasn't above me, he was right beside the bed. I didn't open my eyes. I didn't breathe. I just listened. And this time, for the first time, I heard him, not humming, not whispering, but breathing. It wasn't heavy, not labored. It was quiet, calm, measured, but it was there. A soft in and out rhythm just inches from my face. I wanted to scream, to jump out of bed and run, to throw open the windows, to crawl out if I had to, but I couldn't move, not from paralysis. From something worse, belief. Some deep primal instinct told me that if I acknowledged him, if I made even the smallest noise, he would do something. What that was, I couldn't say, but I felt it waiting in the air. And then he exhaled, a warm breath on my cheek, not imagined, not dreamed, real, physical, felt. And then he whispered for the very first time, still here, my body locked. My skin turned ice cold. I bit my tongue just to stay silent. He didn't speak again. When the clock hit 2:44, the presence faded. The room lightened. The air shifted, and I started to cry, quietly, slowly, into my pillow, because I knew this wasn't going away. He wasn't a dream. He wasn't a ghost. He was something worse, patient. I didn't tell anyone, not at first. Because how do you explain something like that? Hey, I think a man is watching me sleep every night at 2:43, but he's not in the room. He just exists. Still, by the sixth night, I was desperate for reassurance. I called my friend Lena. She's the only person I trust, the kind who listens without judgment. She's also a nurse, used to hearing things that don't make sense at first. We met for coffee that evening. I told her everything, or at least enough. The waking up, the mirror, the voice. She didn't laugh. She just nodded and asked, "Do you sleep with electronics on?" I blinked. What? You know, TV, phone near your head, screens. They mess with your REM cycles. Sometimes it causes false awakenings, hallucinations. That made sense. It almost helped. Until I checked my phone that night before bed. There was a missed call from an unknown number. Timestamp, 2:43. My call history said it lasted 57 seconds. I pressed details. My stomach dropped. The call had come from my own number, not a prank app, not a spoof. My number. I played the voicemail. It was quiet for the first 30 seconds, just static, breathing, and then the sound of my own voice whispering, "Don't move, he'll see you're awake." I didn't sleep that night, and I turned my phone off. When I turned it back on in the morning, the voicemail was gone. Not deleted, gone. I started sleeping with the lights on again. All of them, bedroom, bathroom, even the hallway. It didn't matter. 2:43 a.m. still came like a death bell. It was like my body was sensed to it now. No matter what time I fell asleep, I'd wake up at that precise moment, as if something was pulling me up through layers of unconsciousness just to witness it, to feel it, to be with him. That night, the lights were all burning, and yet my bedroom was dark, not pitch black, not natural dark, something deeper. It started in the corners. I opened my eyes and noticed the ceiling corners were darker than they should have been. Thick, heavy shadows that pulsed slightly, like they were breathing. They moved, slowly, creepingly, drawing inward toward my bed like ink in water. I sat up. I know I shouldn't have. I know, but something about the way the darkness moved made me panic. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. And for just a moment, a fraction of a second, I saw something standing in the corner. Too tall, too narrow, head tilted, just standing. My light passed over it, and it was gone. Like it had only existed in that single angle, that precise moment. I froze, phone trembling in my hand, and then my closet door creaked open. Not fast. Not like a horror movie jump scare. Just slow, soft, deliberate, and behind it, only blackness. But I knew what that blackness meant. It meant he was closer now. He wasn't just watching anymore. He was moving. I didn't scream. I don't know why. I think something in me had already accepted it, like some part of my brain had been numbed, made docile, the way prey plays dead when it knows escape is useless. The closet door had opened barely a foot. But that gap, it felt like an abyss. I aimed my phone's light toward it, expecting to see nothing. Instead, I saw an eye. Just one. Not glowing, not monstrous. Just human, bloodshot, still, and wide open. It didn't blink. I dropped the phone. I couldn't help it. It slipped out of my shaking hands and clattered to the floor, the flashlight rolling and casting erratic beams against the walls and ceiling. I scrambled backward into the headboard, heart hammering like a war drum. The light passed over the door again. The eye was gone. The door was shut, just like that, like it had never opened. Like I'd imagined it all. But I hadn't. I know I hadn't. Because when I finally worked up the courage to retrieve my phone, the camera had taken a burst of photos, accidental, from when it fell. My trembling fingers swiped through them, frame by frame. Empty door, motion blur, then a shot of the closet, the door ajar, and in the gap, not just an eye, a face, half hidden, half visible, as if pressed right up against the wood, pale, emotionless, the kind of face you don't see in crowds, or on strangers, or even corpses, a face that only exists behind doors. And in the last photo, the face was closer, inches from the lens. He was watching the phone, not me, the phone. After the closet, I stopped sleeping in my bedroom. I moved to the couch in the living room, left the hallway light on, kept the television playing low-volume nature documentaries, anything to fill the space with something other than silence. I thought maybe if I wasn't in the bed, he wouldn't come. But that night, I woke up at 2:43 anyway. Only this time, I didn't feel eyes on me. I heard knocking, faint, slow, from beneath the floor. 3 knocks. Then silence. Then 3 more. I sat upright, blanket wrapped tight around my legs. My apartment was on the ground floor, no basement, no crawl space, just concrete beneath the hardwood. There was no way anyone could be under there. But the knocking didn't stop. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. I knelt down beside the couch and pressed my palm to the floorboards. The wood was warm. Not like it was heated warm, like it had body heat, like something was breathing just beneath it. I whispered, "Hello." The knocking stopped. I backed away slowly, unsure if I had imagined it, when suddenly the couch shifted. It jerked an inch to the left, just a little, but enough to make me yelp, enough to make me drop my phone again. I didn't hear the knock this time. I heard a voice, soft, muffled, from under the floor. "You left the bed. You shouldn't leave the bed." I stood frozen, every hair on my body standing straight. "You don't leave until I say you can." That's when the screen of the TV flickered. Not static, not a program, but a live feed of my bedroom. The bed was empty, but the closet, the door was open again, and he was standing inches from the camera. He turned his head slowly and looked straight through the screen, straight at me. The feed only lasted a second. Then the TV turned off by itself. No click, no fade, just immediate black. The remote was across the room. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. I could still hear the last knock ringing in my skull. The floor beneath me was quiet again, cold now. Whatever warmth I'd felt before was gone, like the thing under there had retreated. I sat on the couch, knees to my chest, waiting for morning. My phone lay face down on the floor. I didn't dare reach for it. Not after what I'd seen. At sunrise, I finally moved. Made coffee with shaking hands. I didn't drink it. Just watched the steam rise and fade while the world lit up through my windows. I called Lina again. She picked up groggy. "You okay?" "No," I said. "He's getting closer." She hesitated, then replied with something I hadn't expected. "It happened to my cousin." Silence. "What?" I asked. "Years ago. She said someone watched her at night. Same time every night. 2:43. Said she couldn't sleep. Said he whispered to her. That he got closer. She stopped. That he what?" I pushed. "She vanished," Lena said, her voice barely audible. They found her bed full of her clothes, folded neatly. Her shoes lined up by the closet, window locked from the inside. No sign of her, no forced entry. I didn't respond. Then Lena said something I'll never forget. "He doesn't take you all at once. He removes pieces, slowly, until there's nothing left worth waking up." I ended the call. When I checked my bedroom later, the closet door was wide open again, and my pillow was missing. I didn't realize how much one missing pillow could unravel you. I had 2 pillows on my bed. Always, I didn't move them, didn't travel with them. And yet, that morning, only one remained flat and sunken in the middle. The other had simply vanished, not fallen off the bed, not under it. I checked. I checked everything, pulled the bed away from the wall, lifted the mattress. Emptied the closet, nothing. It wasn't just gone, it had been taken. But by who? I should have left then. Packed my things and gone anywhere else. A hotel, a friend's couch, a bench in a train station. Anywhere but this apartment. But I didn't, because something strange had started to happen. I was beginning to feel tied to the room. Like the thought of sleeping anywhere else was wrong, dangerous, and not just because of the fear, because something inside me whispered, if you leave the bed, he'll follow you. That night, I didn't fight sleep. I climbed into bed and left the lamp on. When I opened my eyes, of course, it was 2:43. The closet door was open. Again, always. But this time, something was different. At the foot of the bed, right in the center of the mattress, sat my missing pillow. Folded neatly, almost like an offering. I stared at it, too afraid to touch it. And then I noticed there was something written on the fabric. At first I thought it was a stain, but no. It was handwriting. Thin, scrawling letters carved into the fibers with something sharp. You woke up. Good. That means you're ready. The words made no sense. Ready for what? Then I heard the breathing again. But this time it wasn't next to the bed. It was underneath it. I couldn't move. The sound was unmistakable, slow, shallow breathing just beneath my mattress. It wasn't the old creaking of wooden slats or the settling of a frame. It was rhythmic, alive. Something was under my bed, my breath caught in my throat. The pillow with the message still sat at my feet like bait, daring me to touch it, to react. But I didn't. I just stared at the ceiling, trying to control the panic rising like bile. Then the bed shifted. Just a little, not like weight moving, not like tossing in sleep. No, more like something gently pushing upward. The breathing grew louder, more excited almost. A tremble passed through the mattress beneath my spine. And then the whisper came again, right below my ear, muffled through the fabric. Do you want to see me now? I flinched. Not much, just a twitch of my fingers, but it was enough. The breathing stopped. Everything went silent. I lay there, paralyzed, listening, waiting. Then came the slowest sound I've ever heard in my life, a hand sliding across the underside of the bed. From one side to the other, it moved with purpose, tracing the outline of my body from below, shoulder to waist, hip to ankle. Then pressure, fingers, 5 of them, pressing upward from under the bed, directly into the small of my back, not clawing, not attacking, just resting there, touching me. I screamed. I leapt out of bed, ran out of the room barefoot, heart shattering my ribs with each beat. I didn't look back, didn't stop until I was in the hallway, pressing my back to the wall. My bedroom door was still open. The lights were still on, but when I dared look, the bed was perfectly made, both pillows in place, blankets smooth and tucked, like no one had been sleeping in it at all. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat on the hallway floor, blanket wrapped around me like armor, eyes locked on the open bedroom door. Every so often, I thought I heard a soft creak from inside, the shift of the mattress, a faint rustle of sheets, but I didn't move, not even to breathe deeply. The idea of re-entering that room felt like suicide. But when the sun came up and light poured into the windows, the apartment changed. The heaviness lifted, the shadows fled. My body still ached, but the world no longer felt like it belonged to him. That afternoon I got bold. I went back in. The bed was still made. Perfectly, like a showroom. I stood in the doorway for several minutes, just staring. The room smelled faintly of old cologne, the kind my father used to wear. Something subtle, clean, but aged, like it had been sitting unopened for decades. I approached the bed cautiously and knelt beside it. I pressed my hand flat to the mattress, still warm. Then I lowered my head slowly and looked underneath. It was empty, just dust, some lint, a pair of socks, no figure, no face, no hand. But in the far left corner, where the floor met the wall, there were scratch marks, long, thin grooves etched into the wood. They looked fresh, not like an animal, not like claws. They were fingernail marks. I traced one with my fingertip and felt a small sliver of nail still embedded in the groove. My stomach turned, and then I saw it, tucked barely out of sight under the bed frame. A photograph. Face down, I picked it up slowly, fingers trembling. Turned it over. It was me, sleeping, on my side, mouth slightly open. Blanket pulled to my chin. It had been taken from above, from the ceiling, but there were no cameras in my apartment. And in the corner of the photo, almost out of frame, a pale hand was reaching for my shoulder. I dropped the photo like it burned. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Who took that picture? When? How did they get above me? My apartment had no attic, no crawl space. The ceiling was solid. I had checked 100 times, but the photo didn't lie. The hand was there, reaching inches from my shoulder. I kept pacing the room, checking corners, tapping the ceiling, knocking like a madman, searching for something I might have missed. A hidden panel, a vent, anything, nothing. Eventually, I collapsed onto the bed. The sunlight was still leaking through the blinds. Mid-afternoon, safe hours, or so I thought. I blinked up at the ceiling, dazed, eyes burning from lack of sleep. Then I saw it. Not a hatch, not a hole. A discoloration in the paint, small, perfectly square, faint, as if a panel had been painted over, concealed. I grabbed a chair from the kitchen and stood on it, using a broom handle to knock on the spot. Hollow. My throat tightened. I tapped again. Something tapped back. 3 slow taps, then silence. I dropped the broom, nearly fell off the chair. I jumped down and stumbled backward until I hit the dresser. My knees were shaking so badly I had to sit. That's when I noticed the second photo. It was tucked between the slats of the blinds, just enough for a corner to poke out. The light glinted off it like a signal. I pulled it free with trembling fingers. Another shot of me, this time from the closet. The louvered door must have had just enough of an opening to get the angle. I was lying on my side, asleep, mouth slightly open. But in this one, he was closer, kneeling next to the bed. One hand on the mattress, the other on my pillow. His face turned toward the camera, smiling. The smile in the photo wasn't warm. It wasn't mocking either. It was worse. It was patient. The kind of smile someone wears when they already know the ending. When they already won, and they were just waiting for you to realize it too. His face was pale, but not sickly. It looked clean, ordinary, no monstrous features. No demonic eyes or twisted limbs. That's what made it so much more terrifying. He looked like someone you'd pass on the street and forget 5 seconds later. I threw the photo across the room. It slid under the dresser and disappeared. I didn't go after it. That night, I didn't go to bed. I sat in the kitchen with every light on, music playing from my phone, candles lit on the counter like they'd help. I left every door open, even the closet. I needed to see everything. Needed to know there were no barriers he could hide behind. 2:40. My eyelids grew heavy. I pinched myself. 2:41. The shadows in the kitchen seemed longer than usual, as if they reached just a few inches farther with every breath I took. 2:42. I blinked once. Just once. When I opened my eyes, the candles were out. My phone screen was dark, and the lights flickering. 2:43. I didn't need to check the time. I knew. I stood, slowly. Every instinct screamed to run, but to where? Where wasn't he? And that's when I heard it, the floor creaking. Not from the bedroom, not from the closet, from above me. From the ceiling. I tilted my head upward, heart in my throat, just in time to hear the sound of something crawling. Not walking, crawling, deliberate, measured. Scrape. Pause, scrape. And then directly above me, a soft, slow whisper. You've made the bed. The ceiling groaned, paint flaked loose, and then, now lie in it. I stumbled backward as the ceiling creaked again. A small flake of white paint floated down and landed in my coffee mug untouched for hours. My breath caught. The crawling above me stopped. Silence. Total, unnatural silence. No fridge hum. No traffic outside. Not even the sound of my own heartbeat, just a ringing pressure in the air, like the moment before a lightning strike. Then a crack. Not loud, but sharp, like plaster splitting. I looked up just as the faint discoloration on the ceiling, the square I had found earlier, began to bulge outward. My legs moved before my brain did. I ran to the hallway, skidding on the wood, just in time to hear a slow tearing sound behind me. Like something was being peeled open, I turned. The panel had dropped open. It hung like a jaw above it. Only darkness, but I could feel him. He was looking down. Waiting, watching. I backed into the hallway wall again, the one where I had sat nights before, praying for daylight. My phone was still in the kitchen. I didn't dare go back for it. Instead, I whispered to no one. Why me? A pause. Then from the ceiling, his voice. Because you noticed. Another silence. Most never do. My breath trembled out of me. You've always been there. I asked, a longer pause, then a soft sound. Something like a laugh made of breath. No, I come when the bed is too empty for too long. I didn't understand. Was this a haunting? A punishment? Some curse I'd invited unknowingly? He continued. You were supposed to sleep through it, but you woke up. And then the worst part. No, you can't go back. I didn't sleep that night. When dawn broke, I found the ceiling panel shut again, as if it had never opened. But on the kitchen counter, where my mug sat, was a single white eyelash. I didn't go to work the next day. I didn't eat, didn't shower. I sat on the couch, staring at the ceiling panel, half expecting it to creak open again. It didn't. The house remained still. But I wasn't comforted by the quiet, not anymore. The silence now felt like part of him, like he could listen through it. Around noon, I made a decision. I packed a duffel bag. Some clothes, my wallet, charger. I didn't bother folding anything. I just stuffed it in. I threw on shoes, grabbed my keys, opened the front door, and stopped. Because on the floor, in front of the threshold, was a piece of paper. Old, yellowed, folded once neatly. I picked it up with trembling fingers and opened it. There were only 3 lines written in the same thin, sharp handwriting I'd seen carved into the pillow. Sleep in the bed. Wake at 2:43. Don't leave again. I staggered back into the apartment and slammed the door shut. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely lock the deadbolt. There were rules. I'd broken them by sleeping on the couch. I'd broken them again by running to the hallway. And now I understood this wasn't just a haunting. This was a game, or worse, a contract. I didn't remember signing anything, but maybe I had. Maybe the moment I felt him for the first time, the moment I noticed, that's when it started. That's when the rules attach themselves to me like hooks in skin. And once they're in, they don't let go. I don't know how to describe it. His face wasn't deformed, wasn't monstrous, wasn't bleeding or rotten or stitched together like a movie ghost. It was plain, painfully plain, but off in a way that gnawed at your brain, like your mind couldn't quite decide what you were seeing. A face that didn't fit, too symmetrical, eyes too still, skin too smooth. His lips were pressed into a near smile, just like in the photograph, except now I was seeing it in real life. And he was looking right at me, not through me, not past me. At me. My body didn't move, couldn't. The room felt frozen, time thickened. He took a step forward, no sound, and tilted his head the same way he had in the mirror. Then he spoke, slowly, clearly. "She talks too much." My throat closed. He took another step. "You let her in." I realized with dawning horror, he wasn't talking about himself. He meant the woman in the wall. That was not part of the agreement. Another step, closer. I slid back into the headboard, shaking violently, the mattress shifting beneath me. "I didn't agree to anything," I said, my voice cracked. "I didn't ask for this." He stopped at the foot of the bed. "You noticed." That same line, that cursed phrase, "that is enough." He raised a hand. Long fingers, too many knuckles, and pointed not at me, but at the wall beside the bed, the crack. And for the first time, I saw something inside it, an eye, not his, hers, watching me. Bloodshot, wide, silent, trapped. Not slowly, but desperately. It darted back and forth behind the crack, frantic and pleading, as if it were searching for a way out. I couldn't look away, not from her, not from him. The man stood still at the foot of the bed, arm extended, finger like a compass pointing at the wall, not moving, not breathing, just holding me there, forcing me to see. And behind that crack, the woman in the wall began to whisper again, "Don't let him name you." I swallowed hard. "What?" The man flinched, just barely. A twitch in the cheek, as if her words caused him physical pain. "He can't keep you if he doesn't know your name." I turned toward him. "Is that true?" His finger curled slowly into a fist. "She lies," but his voice trembled. I could see it now, his fear. Not of me, not of the world, of her. The eye in the wall grew wider, bloodshot veins pulsing at the edges. "He feeds on names," she whispered. "He watches until you speak, until you say it aloud. Then he enters. Then you're his." My mind raced back through every night. I hadn't introduced myself. Not once, not in a whisper, not in a prayer. I had asked questions, but never offered a name. And maybe that's why I still had a chance. "Do not answer him," the voice said, "not even in dreams." The man lowered his hand and took one slow backward step into the corner of the room, his head tilted the other way now, not curious, but calculating. Then he whispered, "You can't stay awake forever," and vanished, just blinked out of sight. No wind, no noise, nothing. Only the whisper of the woman in the wall remained. "He'll try again, when you're tired, when you forget." He always waits for the name. The eye faded behind the crack, and I was alone. For days after that, I didn't sleep. Not because I wasn't tired, I was exhausted, but I couldn't risk dreaming. Couldn't risk giving him even a whisper of my name in a moment of weakness. I lived on energy drinks, bitter coffee, and the kind of music you can't think through. I left the lights on, the windows open, and I talked to myself constantly just to fill the silence. But you can only outrun sleep for so long. On the 5th day, my vision started to shake. Colors bled at the edges of objects. My thoughts frayed. I'd blink and wake up an hour later, not remembering having closed my eyes. I was losing, and he knew it. The first dream came like slipping into cold water. No warning, no feeling of rest. I just opened my eyes, and I was back in my bed. Except everything was wrong. The sheets were too white, the mattress too soft, the room too quiet. I sat up and saw the closet door was wide open. The hallway beyond it stretched into darkness. And at the far end, standing motionless, him. He didn't speak, he didn't move, he just stared. And behind him, hundreds of photos, hung like wallpaper, floor to ceiling. All of me, sleeping, tossing, crying, staring into mirrors. Dozens of versions of me, frozen in moments I don't remember. Some looked years old. Some looked like they were taken just minutes ago. And beneath every one, scrawled in that same jagged hand, almost ready. I turned to run, but the floor fell away beneath me. Blackness swallowed everything. And in the void, I heard his voice whisper one final word. My name, but not fully. Just the first syllable, my own breath caught in my throat. Even in sleep, I hadn't spoken it. But somehow, he was learning it anyway. I woke up screaming. Blanket twisted around my legs, mouth dry, skin soaked in cold sweat. The digital clock on the nightstand read 2:44, 1 minute late. I don't know whether that made it better or worse. I sat in the center of the bed, gripping the sheets, mind racing. He'd spoken it, part of it, just the beginning. I hadn't said anything, not even in the dream. But somehow, he'd begun to peel it from my mind, syllable by syllable, like a secret he was slowly unraveling. And if he said the rest, I didn't want to know what happened then. The next morning, I did something I never thought I would. I took a marker and scratched out my name off my ID, my mail, my notebooks, my prescriptions, everything. I deleted it from my phone too. Changed it in every profile, every contact list. I even whispered apologies to the few friends I had left and told them not to say my name out loud, not ever again. They didn't understand, but some listened. I even stopped thinking it. Whenever my mind drifted too close, I replaced it with a humming sound, a phrase, a song lyric, anything to block it out. Because if he could take the first syllable from a dream, how close was he to the next? That night, I made the mistake of looking in the mirror again. I hadn't looked in days. I covered most of them, but this one, this small square of glass above the bathroom sink, I'd forgotten. I was brushing my teeth, thinking of nothing, just static in my head, and then I looked up. He was behind me, in the reflection only, standing where the wall should have been, closer than ever. His mouth was open, moving. No sound came from the bathroom, but in the mirror, he said the second syllable, 2/3 of my name, my vision blurred. I dropped the toothbrush, fell backward into the tub, barely able to breathe. He was smiling again, almost done. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of defiance or strength, I simply couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt him behind them, pacing the edges of my mind, whispering sounds I couldn't quite hear, words that tickled the back of my skull like a splinter you can't reach. I could feel it. He was almost finished. He had 2 syllables of my name, and that meant I had very little time left. At dawn, I returned to the wall, the one with the crack, where she lived. I pressed my palm against it. It pulsed, faintly, like a heartbeat. Please, I whispered, tell me how to stop him. The wall grew cold beneath my skin. Then the crack widened just slightly, and her voice came, soft as breath. You can't stop him. No, I whispered, no, there has to be something. A pause, then you can only replace yourself. I froze. What does that mean? Her answer came slower this time. He needs a name, a bed, a body. Take one away, or give him someone else. I staggered backward, my mind reeled. She meant I could break the cycle, not by escaping it, but by passing it on. Find someone else to sleep in that bed. Someone who'd wake up at 2:43. Someone who'd notice him. Someone who'd say their name. The thought was disgusting, cruel. But somewhere deep inside, a part of me whispered, isn't that what she did to you? That evening, I cleaned the apartment for the first time in weeks, washed the sheets, wiped down the windows, dusted every inch of the bedroom, and then I listed it for rent. A short-term sublet, fully furnished, no name required. The listing went up that night. 1 bedroom, 1 bath, furnished, quiet building, safe neighborhood, available immediately. I kept it simple. No need to mention the rules. No need to mention the hour. I waited. The next morning, I had 3 inquiries. By the afternoon, a young man, maybe early 20s, showed up to view the apartment. His name was Ethan, kind smile, a little too trusting. The kind of person who didn't worry about things like locked doors or closed closets. Perfect. I just need a place for a week, he said, stepping inside. I'm between leases. You can move in tonight, I offered. He looked surprised, grateful. I didn't tell him I'd already washed the sheets, already tucked the pillows just right, already placed a small, cracked mirror on the nightstand. As I handed him the keys, a chill ran through my spine because I felt him again, standing somewhere just out of sight, watching, waiting. And then, just as Ethan turned to go, he glanced back and asked, "What was your name again?" I smiled, but I didn't answer. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept somewhere else. A motel 2 towns over, plain bed, thin mattress. Lights buzzing above me, and still at 2:43, I opened my eyes. The room was empty, no whisper, no weight beside me, no scratching from under the bed, only silence. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I cried. I woke up gasping, checked the clock, 2:43, old instinct. My eyes scanned the motel room curtains still drawn, desk chair still empty, closet barely wide enough to hold a suitcase, let alone a man. It was quiet, too quiet. I sat up, unsure if I felt relief or guilt. Was it over? Had I really passed him on? Was Ethan waking up now, staring at the closet door, not yet realizing it was open? I reached for my phone. There were no messages, but the notifications had shifted strangely. One voicemail, no missed call. I hadn't heard the phone ring. I pressed play, static at first. Then you left the bed. My chest tightened. You broke the cycle. A pause. You gave me someone new. Another pause, longer this time. Then a soft breath, but you still remember me. I dropped the phone, stumbled back across the mattress. The lights in the motel flickered, once, twice. Then, from the bathroom mirror, a knock. From inside the glass. I approached slowly. The mirror was fogged, though I hadn't showered, hadn't even turned on the water. My reflection stared back at me, blurred. Then a second shape appeared behind it. His silhouette, faint, hands pressed against the other side of the mirror. A whisper traced through the room like wind in a coffin, even from far away. The figure's lips moved again, slowly, deliberately. I remember your name. But it didn't. He just stood there, behind the glass, a silent outline in the fog, watching, smiling. Even from far away, he had said. I thought leaving the apartment would be enough, that the rules were bound to that bed, that place, that hour. But I was wrong, because I didn't forget him. I still remembered, and that was the real contract, wasn't it? Not the location, not the time. It was memory. He didn't need to haunt the room, not anymore. He was anchored to me. For the next 2 nights, I didn't sleep. I threw a towel over the motel mirror, turned off the lamps, unplugged the clock. Still, every time I blinked too long, I saw his face behind my eyelids, smiling, waiting, mouthing my name syllable by syllable. On the 3rd night, I got a call. Blocked number. I answered anyway. Hello? At first, no sound. Then the static, faint, familiar, followed by a voice. He doesn't just take your name. I froze. It wasn't his voice, it was hers. The woman in the wall. He takes your face, your thoughts, your sleep. A pause. You'll fade, piece by piece. Until you're just another photo. I dropped the phone. My hands were trembling again. On the motel desk, the mirror was fogging up on its own breath from the inside. And this time, something was being written into it, with a finger, letter by letter, almost ready. The letters faded slowly, as if written in breath, not on glass. Almost ready. Ready for what? Ready to disappear? Ready to become him? I didn't wait to find out. I packed my bag again and checked out of the motel before the sun came up. The clerk didn't ask why. Maybe he saw it in my eyes, the hollow look of someone being followed by something no one else could see. I drove for hours, no destination, just away. Away from the apartment, away from the mirror, away from 243, but I knew it was pointless. You can't run from something that lives in memory. And I remembered everything. I stopped in a small, nameless town, rented a cabin on the edge of a lake, remote, quiet, no Wi-Fi, no mirrors. That night, I nailed a blanket over every reflective surface. I set up cameras, pointed them at the bed, kept the lights on, set alarms for 242, 243, 244, but nothing happened. No sound, no shadow, no whisper. I should have felt relief, but I didn't, because I knew this wasn't safety. It was the pause before the final act. Around 3:10, I checked the footage. The camera on the nightstand had glitched. Just for a second, one frame. And in that frame, barely visible through the digital noise, his face, leaning over me, grinning, closer than ever. It didn't matter where I went. He was always a second behind me, waiting for the moment I gave in. And in the static between frames, he learned the final syllable. It was a whisper I didn't even hear, not out loud, but I felt it. Like a blade slipped between thoughts, quiet, clean, and irreversible. The final syllable of my name, spoken not by me, but by him. I woke up at 2:43 with a scream locked in my throat. The cabin was dead silent, but I already knew. He had it, all of it. My full name. And something shifted the moment he spoke it. I wasn't alone in my body anymore. The next morning, my reflection didn't match me. It was subtle at first, a delay in the blink. A moment too long before the mouth smiled back. I raised my hand, it followed. But when I frowned, it lingered, just slightly, with that smile still etched at the corners of the mouth. His smile. I broke every mirror in the cabin, even the ones I'd covered, even the black screen of the TV, but I still saw him, in reflections of water, in windows, in the lens of my phone camera. Each time, a little closer, a little clearer, until he wasn't just watching me sleep anymore, he was watching me while I was awake. I started forgetting things, small at first, names of places, friends, the taste of certain foods. Then deeper, my own face, what my voice used to sound like. Eventually, my dreams were no longer mine. They belonged to him. And in those dreams, I stood in a dark hallway, hundreds of photos of me on the walls. Only now, my face was becoming his. It didn't happen all at once. He didn't steal my body the way a thief might steal a car. No, he replaced me. Memory by memory, thought by thought. One night, I tried to recall the smell of my mother's cooking. Gone. The next day, I forgot the name of the street I grew up on. Gone. By the end of the week, I stood in front of a bathroom mirror, a cracked shard I had missed, and I didn't know the face looking back, because it wasn't mine anymore. It was his, that too smooth skin, that unnatural stillness, and the smile. God, the smile. Wide, quiet, patient, like he'd always been there. And now, he had. I don't know how long I sat there, watching the thing I was becoming. But at 2:43, as always, I woke, and this time, I was already standing at the foot of the bed, watching myself sleep. But there was no myself anymore, just him, in my bed, wearing my face, smiling, and in that moment, I understood something. This is what he does. He watches until you see him. Then he learns you. Then he becomes you, and what's left of you watches in return. From mirrors, from windows, from the crack in the wall, forever, the cabin is still. The lights buzz quietly. The floorboards creak when the wind shifts. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming. unless you know where to look, unless you know what to listen for. Because if you press your ear to the far wall, the one across from the bed, you will hear tapping, 3 slow taps, every night, at 2:43. And if you're still awake and very quiet, you might hear the floorboards creak. You might feel the blanket shift beside you. You might see him just for a second in the corner of your eye, smiling, still, patient. He's not watching me anymore. He doesn't have to. I'm part of him now. One of the faces behind the glass. One of the hands behind the wall. A shadow behind your shoulder when the lights go out. The bed is made. The pillows are fluffed. The clock still works. He's waiting, not for me, for you, because all it takes is one night. One restless shift, one glance beneath the bed. And if you wake up at 2:43, don't look under the covers. Don't look in the mirror. And whatever you do, don't say your name. He's always watching. He's almost ready. And now, so am I. It didn't happen all at once. He didn't steal my body the way a thief might steal a car. No, he replaced me. Memory by memory, thought by thought. One night, I tried to recall the smell of my mother's cooking. Gone. The next day, I forgot the name of the street I grew up on. Gone. By the end of the week, I stood in front of a bathroom mirror, a cracked shard I had missed, and I didn't know the face looking back, because it wasn't mine anymore. It was his, that too smooth skin, that unnatural stillness, and the smile. God, the smile. Wide, quiet, patient, like he'd always been there. And now he had. I don't know how long I sat there, watching the thing I was becoming. But at 2:43, as always, I woke, and this time, I was already standing at the foot of the bed, watching myself sleep. But there was no myself anymore, just him, in my bed, wearing my face, smiling. And in that moment, I understood something. This is what he does. He watches until you see him. Then he learns you. Then he becomes you, and what's left of you watches in return. From mirrors, from windows, from the crack in the wall. Forever, the cabin is still. The lights buzz quietly. The floorboards creak when the wind shifts. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming. Unless you know where to look, unless you know what to listen for. Because if you press your ear to the far wall, the one across from the bed, you'll hear tapping, 3 slow taps, every night, at 2:43. And if you're still awake and very quiet, you might hear the floorboards creak. You might feel the blanket shift beside you. You might see him just for a second in the corner of your eye, smiling, still, patient. He's not watching me anymore. He doesn't have to. I'm part of him now. One of the faces behind the glass. One of the hands behind the wall. A shadow behind your shoulder when the lights go out. The bed is made. The pillows are fluffed. The clock still works. He's waiting, not for me, for you, because all it takes is one night. One restless shift, one glance beneath the bed. And if you wake up at 2:43, don't look under the covers. Don't look in the mirror. And whatever you do, don't say your name. He's always watching. He's almost ready. And now, so am I.